The moment you finally sit down on the couch, your dog lets out that long dramatic sigh. Not a bark, not a whine, not even a movement really. Just that slow exhale, as if the entire day has been pressing against its chest. And now, finally, something in the room has been resolved. Most people hear that sound and assume one of two things. The dog is tired. The dog is annoyed that nothing interesting is happening anymore. Most people hear that sound and assume the dog is tired. The dog is annoyed that nothing interesting is happening anymore. Sometimes, to be fair, either of those can be true. But very often, that post-settle sigh means something much more specific than simple exhaustion. Because in the language of mammalian nervous systems, a deep exhale after safety is established is not trivial, it is regulatory. It is the body shifting out of vigilance. It is physiology announcing that, for the moment, the watch is over. And what makes this so striking is that your dog may not be reacting only to its own body. It may also be reacting to yours. When you are still moving through the house, your dog is not just seeing motion. It is reading the state of the environment through the state of you. You stand, you pace, you go to the kitchen, you glance toward the door, you pick something up, you put it down. You remain, in a very real sense, unresolved. And for a social animal whose survival has always depended on tracking the behavior of important others, unresolved movement matters. And for a social animal whose survival has always depended on tracking the behavior of important others, unresolved movement matters. Then something changes, a shift occurs in the room. You sit down, not halfway, not in the temporary, I might get back up in a second way. You actually settle, you finally sink into the couch. Your shoulders drop, your pace disappears. Your breathing slows, your body tells the room what your voice never had to say. Nothing urgent is happening now, and for many dogs that is the cue. That long sigh after you sit on the couch is often not just fatigue leaving the body, it is a nervous system updating its assessment of the world. Because broadly speaking, mammals move between two very different physiological modes. One is associated with mobilization, scanning, readiness, increased arousal, the body preparing to respond if something requires action. The other is associated with restoration, slower breathing, reduced muscle tension. The other is associated with restoration, slower breathing, reduced muscle tension, digestion, recovery, the body receiving the message that immediate threat is low. In everyday language, we might call these vigilance and relaxation. In physiology, we are usually talking about a shift toward parasympathetic regulation, the side of the autonomic nervous system associated with rest, recovery, and physiological calm. That does not mean the dog is unconscious to the world. It means the body is no longer preparing for it in the same way. And one of the most visible signs of that shift across mammals is exhalation. The body that has been holding itself slightly ready does not relax silently. It often lets go audibly. That is why the sigh matters. Because if your dog gives that heavy exhale right after you settle into the couch, the timing itself may be the message. The environment did not merely become quiet, it became safe enough to stop monitoring at full intensity. And your stillness may be part of the reason. Dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to human movement, posture, routine, and emotional tone. They do not need a formal signal from us. They read transitions. They know the difference between putting keys down for a moment and putting the day down. They know the difference between sitting on the edge of a cushion and disappearing into it. They know when you are physically present but still behaviorally on alert. And they know when the center of the household has finally gone still. That matters more than it first appears to. Because safety for a social species is not just about walls and locks and closed windows. Safety is also social information. It is the felt sense that the important members of the group are no longer preparing for something, that nobody is orienting toward a disturbance, that the system can, for now, downshift together. In that sense, your dog's sigh may function almost like a biometric reading, a tiny physiological confirmation that the pack is secure, not forever, not in some mystical way. Just here now in this room, on this couch, in this moment, the patrol is over. And if that sounds overly poetic, it is worth remembering that social regulation is not sentimental, it is biological. Mammalian nervous systems influence each other constantly. Heart rate, muscle tension, breathing rhythm, attention, and arousal are all shaped not only by what is happening in the environment, but by what nearby bodies appear to be doing with that environment. This is one reason calm is contagious, and so is tension. A dog living closely with a human learns, over thousands of repetitions, what your movement means. When movement predicts action, the dog remains more ready. When stillness predicts safety, the dog can release. That release does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like a softer gaze, a looser jaw, a hip collapsing fully to one side, the head lowering onto the cushion. And sometimes it sounds like that sigh, The reason people underestimate it is that sighing looks too ordinary to be important. But the most meaningful behavioral signals usually are ordinary. They are small. They are easy to miss. And they become visible only when you stop asking, "What is the dog doing?" and start asking, "What state is the dog leaving?" Because that is the more interesting question. Your dog may not be sighing because it is suddenly tired. It may be sighing because it no longer has to stay slightly ready in the same way it was a moment ago. And those are not the same thing. Of course, context matters. A sigh is not a universal translation device. Dogs also sigh when they are bored, mildly frustrated, settling into sleep, or giving up on something they hoped might happen. No single sound should ever be interpreted in isolation. But the classic couch sigh has a pattern. You sit, the dog looks at you or shifts position near you. Its body softens, its breathing lengthens, and then comes the exhale. In that sequence, the sigh is not random. It is part of a larger relaxation cascade. That is the key. Behavior is rarely one signal, it is clusters. A relaxed sigh usually arrives with other signs of physiological release: soft eyes, still ears, loose mouth, weight surrendered to the floor or cushion, no persistent scanning, no sharp orientation to every sound in the house. The whole dog tells the story. The sigh is just the sentence most humans happen to notice. And what that story often says is surprisingly beautiful. It says that your dog was not only tracking the room, it was tracking you, waiting in some quiet and deeply social way for confirmation that the day had moved from active to safe, that your body had stopped asking the environment questions, that there was for now nothing left to solve. And once that information arrived, your dog's body answered in the oldest language mammals have: exhale, release, recover. So the next time your dog sighs, right after you sit down on the couch, you may be hearing more than sleepiness. You may be hearing the nervous system's version of trust, a small physiological vote of confidence in the moment, a signal that the important creature in the room has settled, and therefore the room itself can settle too. Not because your dog has stopped caring, because it no longer needs to keep watch with the same intensity. That is what makes the sound feel so familiar to us. We do this too. At the end of a long day, when the door is closed, the lights are low, and the person we trust is finally beside us, we let out a breath we did not realize we were holding. Not because we became tired in that exact second, because in that exact second we became safe enough to feel our own tiredness. Your dog may be doing something very close to that, which makes the couch sigh more than a habit, more than a cute quirk, more even than a sign of comfort. It may be one of the quietest forms of attachment in the house, a body hearing your stillness, believing it, and deciding finally to rest. And if that changes how you hear that quiet sigh next to you, then you're not just living with a dog. You're living with a nervous system that has learned that your presence means it can finally let go. And that's not a small thing. That's what thousands of years of living beside humans looks like, in its quietest form. If you want to understand your dog like this, subscribe, because there's a lot more happening in your dog than it seems.